Alright, this is my first time doing a garden tour with video, so let's see how this goes. When you first come in, I've got some clematis going here. This plant wasn't happy because I actually moved the thyme at the base, so I just moved that back to see if I can get that happy again. So we've got some thyme right here and right there. I've got this strawberry plant here, and this one I actually just put in this bucket this year. It was in a different spot, but we're moving the garden around, so we're going to be taking away some stuff over from this side because we're expanding the garden. So where the yellow bags of dirt are is where this plant lived until this past spring. Somebody gave me snapdragon, so I stuck it in this little pot. Back here are my green onions. My green onions. These are actually all grown from onions I got from the grocery store that I cut to make recipes, and then I just stuck them in this pot, and they're doing very well. I've got my little viola flowers. This is their 4th year self-seeding. They are one of the first things I planted in this garden when I first started this garden 5 years ago, and they come back every year, which I absolutely love. This is my bed of, let me see, what kind of cherry tomatoes are these? They are actually suckers off of this, which is the black cherry hybrid tomato. So I've got 3 plants here, 1, 2, 3, and these suckers are growing like crazy. So I actually got suckers off of them, and these 6 plants are from that. And then over here, try and go easy with the camera, I've got a row of 4 here and a row of 3. This one actually just was planted today out of the house. What I've been doing is I put them in water, and once they have some roots, I put them out in the dirt here. This bed is a couple different ones. Let me turn this off for a second. So this bed is Marbone, which is this row here plus 2, and then I've got some German Johnsons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those, and we've got some big beefs. These are big beefs here, and this is actually an extra German Johnson. What I did was I wanted to see a comparison of the ones that were started inside in the water versus being direct thrown in the ground. So the ones that were put direct in, they struggled for a bit. You can see they have some leaf damage here, but they're bouncing back really nice. They only struggled for maybe 2 or 3 days being out here. This one I put in last week, and it's not dead, like it's still alive. It's definitely got some dead leaves on it, but that was an experiment, so I wanted to see how this would compare to that. So I know from now on I'll be starting them inside, not doing this because they just bounce back a lot faster that way. Over here is an ever-blooming variety of strawberry, so this will give me strawberries all summer long. You can see there's a little strawberry right in there and a few on the edge here. So what I've got going on, I'll try and change angles here, is I've got some fencing over top, and the way I've got this is I want some space so that the bugs could get in here and the bees could get in here and do what they need to do, but I didn't want the birds to be all flying or the squirrels or anything like that. This actually was poked up a little bit better. I actually had a nice dome shape the other day, but we had a lot of wind today and it's kind of disheveled things out here. I've got my chives here, so this is where I started them, and they've migrated onto the pathway here, but that's totally fine because I get a lot of good chives for dinner from this. I've got some more of my little violas, and most people say these die off for the summer, but I've not really had that happen. Like, even in the heat of summer, I always have these all the way through to the fall. I've got a clematis here. I guess I'll have to take this off. So this little clematis was a Lowe's save last summer, and I've kept it in the pot, and I actually have a spot for it I want to put it in, but I haven't had a chance to clean that area out because I had poison ivy and we sprayed it. And here's some more of my violas. So most of my violas get this really pretty purple color, but I've had a lot of these little itty bitty purple ones this year. But what's really cool about these is every face is a little different, kind of like a fingerprint. So every one you look at doesn't match, which is something I really enjoy. So you don't really notice it when you just look at them quick, but then as you get closer you go, oh, this one's got a little chin spot, and some of them are different shades of purple, and they're really pretty. I really enjoy them. All right, you're probably like, please move on. All right, so this bed here, what I've got going on is this bed started out with the peppers. So this is hot cherry peppers, and there should be, here's some hot cherry peppers hiding down in there. And this bed has, I believe, 8 of them right here in a row of 2. And then around the edges is a tomato that my neighbor gave me, and he wasn't sure what it is. I think it's some kind of an Italian, like Marzano or something. They just label it as an Italian tomato. He's been getting it from somebody for a few years now who doesn't really speak English. He only speaks Italian, so he doesn't really label what it is. It's just, oh yeah, I got some tomatoes for you. So every year he's got some tomatoes for me. So these ones I'm actually really surprised and happy with how they're doing, because when he gave them to me, they were all probably about this big, which they're only, this one's like maybe a foot high, maybe. And they were all about that, and they were in not great condition because they were really root bound. Every single one of these plants was in a pot that was probably about as wide as this 5-gallon bucket over here, and it wasn't even close to as deep as that. So they were really root bound, and I really didn't have high hopes for them, but they seem to be growing pretty nice now. They've gotten a lot taller. I don't see any sign of flowers on them yet, but they are looking way better than they did, so I'm happy about that. Over here I've got a patch of green beans. These are supposed to be bush beans. I don't know what's going on with the leaves all of a sudden. I don't see anything on them. They're just being torn up by something. Who knows? Anything in the garden, really. And then over here is more bush beans. Well, it's supposed to be bush beans. Let me back up so you can see. I've got a trellis in here. Why do I have a trellis in here? I don't know. I've got pole beans growing with my bush beans, which I bought bush beans. I have no idea why there's pole beans in here. But I originally was looking at my bush beans, and instead of being all like one height like these guys, I had a couple that were sticking up with these little extra things, and I'm like, why does it have this little extra thing? It kind of looks like a pole bean. So for the heck of it, I stuck a stick next to it, and it did this, and I was like, oh geez, I've got pole beans hidden here. But if you grab these, they kind of stick to your finger, like you can feel little ridges and it sticks, versus these ones down here, which are totally smooth, and they don't have that kind of ridging at all. So I don't know if I have a seed packet that's actually these, because what I did was anywhere I had the holes, I came back and added more beans. So now I'm gonna go check my packages when I get in and see what's going on with that, because like, did I buy the wrong beans even though I bought all bush beans, I thought? I don't know. All right, so over here, this is fun. So these big leaves are acorn squash that over the winter, if I had acorn squash for dinner, I just took the pile of seeds and I just kind of shoved it in the ground. And come spring, I had 2 of them that were growing. And I was like, oh, I have 2 growing. All right, I'll just stick them in this pot, well, this raised bed over here. This is a 2 foot by 4 foot garden bed here. And I was like, okay. So then I had a brilliant idea of, oh, I had acorn squash for dinner. Let me just shove the pile in the dirt over here. It's probably only going to have a couple come up. Clearly, I was mistaken. Clearly, I was mistaken. I think every single seed in that pile grew. Because I've got all of these and kind of mixed in with this. And I even threw a couple in down here just to put them somewhere. So I had basically a whole pile of these little tiny green leaves just in this spot here, and I kind of spread them out a little bit. But my husband's like, what are you going to do with this? I'm like, I don't know yet. This is an experiment. I'm going to just leave it and see what happens. And I today just put in this really tall stick formation, and I put some strings in to help give it something to climb onto, and kind of perked it up, and we'll see how that goes. This is my pineapple plant, which is not happy. I need to replant it. It needs a different kind of more sandy soil, tropical soil. So I need to replant that poor thing. I'll get around to it eventually. It's my kind of neglected plant in the garden right now. Over here, this 4-foot by 8-foot bed is all Roma tomatoes. So I decided, I want to have Roma tomatoes this year. And I want to do a big batch of sauce because I haven't had tomatoes to make a batch of sauce, a really good batch of sauce in a few years. So like, I want to do that. So all of this is tomatoes. So it's actually, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 10 in a double row this way. So one row here, 5, one row there, 5. And I had a couple little ones that somebody gave me. I just kind of tucked them in around the edges here, not thinking that it would be that kind of crazy. Actually, this might be one branch off of this. So I haven't removed any suckers from this because this is a determinate variety of tomato. And I was told if I remove them, then I won't get a good yield, so I'm not doing that. And hidden in this pile is a row of sunflowers. So I was trying companion planting this year, and I made a row of sunflowers. So I have one right here that actually has a nice bud on it, and another one hidden right here. And there's a couple itty bitty ones that are only like this big, like back in there somewhere. I did see on the side of it, on this side, in here, there's one of my little sunflowers right there. Poor neglected sunflower. Did not mean for that to happen at all. I thought it would grow a lot faster than it did. I'm going to skip this bit for a minute to talk about sunflowers. So over here, speaking sunflowers, so there's a sunflower right there, because I did the same thing over here where I did a row. So the sunflower, here's a sunflower right there. We've got a sunflower, right here. I'm like, where's my other sunflower? Yeah, it's huge now. So I've got a nice tall one right here. This one is, at least 2 feet. So that's a nice tall one. And then I've got a little one over here. So it's funny like how different the heights are for these. And then down here, hidden under the sunflowers, I've got 2 little sweet peppers that somebody gave me. When they were given to me, they only had 2 leaves. So I really didn't have high hopes for these. So if they give me anything this year, I'll be pretty happy about that. And then I've got some basil. And I started the basil from seeds. And I'm glad to finally see basil growing, because for the longest time it was like little leaves like this big. And I'm like, please do something. And then I threw some marigolds in here recently. And it took me a while to realize what it was, and don't accidentally pick it as thinking that it's weeds. Here's a third pepper that I didn't realize was in here. And then over here is a Pantera pepper, and this one actually has a good bit of peppers on it. Let's see, we've got 4 peppers, 5, there's a little tiny one there, and a little tiny one there. So I've got a couple nice sized peppers in here. I'll have to come back later and get these. I've got tomato, 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 and this was given to me by somebody, and they're like, it's It's a big tomato. It'll be a really big something. Okay, I don't know what kind of tomato is a big tomato, but sure. So I've got some mystery tomatoes over there, but I always have mystery tomatoes every year. So this one over here, this one's a Marbone that somebody labeled. Thank you, person who gave this to me, for labeling it. They also gave me a Big Beef and a German Johnson. So these are the ones that I was getting the suckers off of and growing. But here's something interesting. So the German Johnson over here has like a light, oops, why is that? This has a light green tomato on it. So that's a very different looking tomato than right next to it, which is the Big Beef, totally different shade of green. And then if I come over here to the Marbone, another different tomato. So this one is kind of light colored on the bottom and dark green on the top. So I thought that was pretty fascinating that they looked very different like that. And then over here, the Romas, this is what the little Romas look like. So they're a totally different shape as well. So then over here, I've got my bok choy that somebody gave me. And I'm still wondering if these are bok choy, because when I just bought seeds the other day, the stem of the bok choy is white. So I'm really curious what I actually have growing here. I let it go to seed because it's hot and it wasn't gonna do much. Like, I just kept picking the flowers off, and wasn't really doing much. So I was like, I'll just let go to seed and I'll reseed it for the fall. And actually, if I look at these seed pods, I looked up the other day how to collect seeds from bok choy, and these seed pods do look correct for bok choy, so maybe it's just a different species than the white stem version. I don't know. So down here, I have leeks. So nice tall leeks. So they've actually got 3 of them here. So there's 1, 2, and 3. This one's kind of small. So these were another, I had it for dinner, and I got it growing in my garden. So that's always exciting when they do that. All right, let's see. So there's that bed. All right, let me turn around over here. So this bed over here, these are zucchinis. So I planted 2 zucchini seeds and was like, they're probably not going to grow. So I bought a zucchini plant that had 2 in it. So I put 1, there's the tag for it. I put 1 here. And I've got my 2 that actually grew from seed over here. And then from the pot, I took the second one and put it on this side, where I also had the ones from seed grow, which I was not expecting such a good germination rate. But hey, if I get zucchini from it, I'll be really happy. Then on the trellis in the middle here is my cucumbers. So there's the cucumber plants here. I just collected a nice cucumber off this, but you can see lots of nice, happy little flowers hiding under here. And on this side, we've got sunflower right there in the middle. And right here, because I'm companion planting this year, trying to add more flowers into the garden, trying to do more companion planting, trying to learn things. Down here, hiding, I've got flowers, but I also have little cucumbers popping up. So there's 1 little cucumber there, and there's a decent sized one coming up in there. So that one's still on the thin side, so that still needs a couple more days. And then over here hiding, I've got a nice sized one, and that one I think I'll pick tomorrow because I was waiting for the curl to straighten out a bit, and it is almost straight now. Like, it was really curly to begin with, but it's looking good. And look at this, there's more hiding under there. So cucumbers are doing great. I'm real happy about that. They're starting to go up here, so hopefully the sunflower will grow a little taller and these things can grow on the sunflower a little bit. Over here, I planted potatoes into buckets, and they actually have been blooming, which I heard it doesn't matter if they bloom or not. It doesn't affect your potatoes, so I'm letting them bloom. It brings in bees. And then right here is my fig. So my mom gave me this fig this year, and when she gave it to me, it had 3 itty bitty little leaves, and then we got a frost, and I'm like, well, that's dead. That's not gonna survive the frost. And it was looking kind of sad for a while. It was just a stick. And then my neighbor says to me, oh, my fig is doing fabulous this year for the first time in years because I threw coffee grounds on it. I was like, hey mom, you're over. Keep your coffee grounds. I'm gonna throw it on this fig. So I've just been throwing some coffee grounds down in the soil here. You can kind of see this is all coffee grounds on the top here. And once I started throwing coffee grounds on it, this sucker started growing leaves like crazy. So it likes coffee apparently. I don't drink coffee, so every time my mom comes over, I'm just gonna have her keep coffee grounds, and I put 2 cups of coffee on this week, so we'll see if it does anything else because it's happy with that. Over here I have a rosemary with some parsley, so I wanted to put those 2 things together and see how that goes. I've got my ornamental grasses growing up the side here, which is making me crazy. I hate that. I've got a rogue blackberry. So this blackberry plant is over here, and I planted this thing when we first moved here, going on 9 years now, and it moved from the old house with me. I put it over there, and it had some shady stuff, and it wasn't doing so well, and I had not many high hopes for it. I'm like, we're not really going to get anything from this blackberry. This year, for no apparent reason, when we cleared out this area for the garden to put this garden bed in, this thing went, oh look, I want to grow in this space. So it started creeping over here. So I've actually been picking it like a weed out of my walkway here because it's escaping over here. And it's all over there. And somewhere in this mess is my blueberry with the tiniest little blueberry flowers I've ever seen. But yeah, so the blackberry is currently a weed, which is actually cracking me up because I've wanted a nice blackberry patch for ages. So as it's been a weed, as we were clearing out all this space over here for the garden, I started pulling the blackberry out and just plopping it in buckets. I was like, it's not going to do anything in a bucket. It's going to die. No. I have some very happy blackberries in these buckets right here that I'm like, okay, fine. You're going to grow in buckets. And once this area over here is clear of the stupid weeds, then I'll move it back up there. I'll put them back in this patch where I want them. So this blue tarp is all ornamental grasses underneath. And this whole area got taken over by them very quickly, which is why I can never recommend ornamental grasses to anyone. There's another one that is in a spot where we couldn't put the tarp over top of it. But this stuff is the most invasive weed I've ever seen. It spreads so fast. We've dug it out multiple times. We've dug the whole thing out. This entire area here, which is probably about 20 foot, we've dug this out. It took my husband and I 2 days to dig all these stupid things out. It took 2 of us to lift them out in the trash cans. And within 2 months, all of this area was completely covered again, like we hadn't even touched it. That's how invasive this stuff is. We actually had this entire area here was ornamental grasses, and we left a pool tarp on it. Actually, I think probably that one. We left the pool tarp over this for well over a year, like probably spring to spring. And it finally killed the grasses from the heat. And over here, we dug them out again. So anytime we see them, we're just trying to remove them as fast as we can because they're just awful. So this is actually a drainage garden here. So any of the flow. So let me see if I can back up so you can see this. So this whole area is actually on a hill headed towards the drainage. So if you look at my garden beds, I've got a lot of space on this side above and not that much here because we actually leveled the beds into the hill to help with keeping the water in there and not having it run off. So all of my beds here are full size on this end and dug into the hill on that end. So that's kind of crazy. So I think that's everything in here. Then I have just like random things. So I've got like a spearmint right there. I've got a onion that I threw in a pot there. Little lavender that I picked up. So then the plan for over here, this is all oregano. I don't know how I'm dealing with the oregano just yet, but we're going to retake some of this garden area here, probably over to where like the edge of this bed is. But this can't stay here because this is just too nuts with the oregano. So, but my husband realized that I needed more space than I had when I started doing this, and thought maybe instead of taking over where the edge of this is, he'd give me more space over here and have like another 4x8 bed. And there's my small puppy who makes it very hard to get gardening done. All right. Thank you for coming through my garden tour with me. I hope you enjoyed it.